sorry. Go to class. That's pretty good. Yeah, Sam had lunch with Lily Saunders. Came downstairs and
Alive now.
that he had chewed it up. I was like, so glad he didn't sculpture. Good for her.
So well.
My son's graduating too. He was the only one that's making hired him on the wrong grades.
I wouldn't want to talk about
They just never took the represents management meeting.
I don't think you're talking about that.
EPR, Polly and Gold. Oh, she's going to be. You don't have to grow. Yeah, it goes down. Yeah. I mean, you were good with that, but yeah, but it would have been great just not to have been contact, right? Like a buffer. Yes. Yeah. Right.
Like an hour and
So, and smart. Yes.
oh
My great retired business manager. So now I have on the board. I think you should write a book. I think you should write a book about
that one, yeah.
She's a less CEO.
Just consider
The little one is too small. Well, I know.
They told you you were going to turn that kind
Joe, is there stuff
See,
you
I don't know what's like actually in science. The same thing. Like I think a lot of the AI is going to be, but there's always fantastic.
She's great. She's like the best dog I've ever.
Big question.
Because she just doesn't care. It's not because she doesn't care.
But I also explained the fact that last meeting we had 2 or 3 weeks ago.
She just likes to be held like she's held. I did. I had to follow the trail to the puncture.
But there I went through it. First,
Everyone's on the teacher, right? It's awful. That's what they do.
the athletics. So I know it's coming.
You know, like, push out there, so just like, drill on us. So he should have been gone.
And then, they started this whole
She's and she drives here to Milton. It's like an hour.
I don't think more than that.
Great question.
Exactly.
Good evening. I'd like to call the special meeting of the Summers Board of Finance to order this April 7th, 2026. Present we have Paul Hart, Bruce Devlin, Joe Tolisano, and Mike Parker. We have had great assistance from the Board of Education in taking a tough look at their budget, and they've been able to reduce it by some $305,811. Thanks. And for that, I think the Board of Finance is appreciative. We have a thought here that the mill rate, as it stands now, at 22.4, Is that right?
That's the adjusted mill rate. Yes.
That's the adjusted mill rate at the moment. That we want, that the town would accept, the taxpayers of the town might well accept, there's no guarantee, but they might well accept an increase of 2 mills. And the Board of Finance, I think, just letting you know what their sense is. I can't tell you what their final vote would be, but I could tell you the sense of the Board of Finance is that we think a 2.0 mill increase is the right thing to do for the town of Somers at this point. That leaves us with about $167,000 to find in order to balance the budget. We have 76,000 that we've identified in this year's funds that are not going to be used. 50 in the town budget and 26 in the capital funds budget. That leaves us looking for, if my math is somewhat correct, and I haven't taken the advanced math course yet, but that leaves us looking for about $90,000. And we have suggested that we take that out of the capital funds budget for next year, which was $350, which would be reduced to $260. Is that right, Brian?
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking to see if there's anything that.
Trying to find my notes here.
Yeah, you don't even have anything that you could. Honestly, that you could remove. A lot of the general fund transfer is to cover existing leases.
So we also know that there's an ongoing concern about some funds that are distributed from the state with respect to special ed that the town is holding on to at the moment that is not in any revenue calculation that I know about. That's about $300,000 altogether. So when I hear from the town selectman, perhaps he might be able to help us, because I'm not sure that we want to strip the capital budgets so tightly that we can't proceed with existing projects. And also, we need to try to collect about $500,000 in our reserve fund to meet our bonding requirements. In other words, if we go below a certain amount in the reserves, and Brian can tell us exactly what that number is, if we go below a certain amount, then our ability to bond at a favorable interest rate is reduced substantially. In other words, it costs us more money to borrow if our reserves are below a certain amount. And that reserve number is based on our operating budget for what, 2 months, or is it?
Our policy is 15% of the budget, so it would be based on 15% of whatever we approve for fiscal 27.
Okay.
I can't think of his last name. I'll give it.
Which I think is a couple of months of operating.
It just shy of a couple months. 16.7 is 2 months.
Okay. So that's the situation that we're in. Is there any public comment at all? Okay. If hearing none, maybe we could hear from the Board of Education first. Dr. Galloway?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. So, Chairman Parker, you stole a little bit of my thunder, but I'm happy to report that the Board of Ed took a very proactive approach regarding budget reductions. On April 2nd, the Finance Subcommittee met. Chair Kim Radowitz, Mike Briggs, J.T. Galloway, and Ed DePoe met, and we presented recommendations for a reduction. It was accepted by the subcommittee. Immediately thereafter, the board met, supported that recommended reduction, which brings us down to a 2.68% reduction. What got us there was a reduction in the health insurance line. We had budgeted for 15%. It came in at 12.6 for 163,615 savings. Regarding staffing, we're able to realize a reduction in the nursing line of almost $40,000. We did hire a high school English teacher newer to the field, so we realized the savings from that hire, and also retirement at the middle school. We realized a reduction there, and that gave us the $305,811. So that concludes my update for the board.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Galloway? Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Keeney?
Chairman and members of the board, first of all, address the question the chairman just raised, which was about the special ed funds. Selectman Meyer has submitted a list of questions to the chairman of the Board of Ed, Mike Briggs, and this was given to him probably about 2 or 2.5 weeks ago. And once those questions are answered, I think that the funds will be released. And it really doesn't. So the issue is really not the special ed funds. It's just getting answers to basic questions about the school and how it's run. That's what it is. So the $300,000 is not at risk. I can tell you that. It's not at risk. So you can not stop worrying about that.
It's a question of you or Mr. Meyer having his questions answered.
That's it. And they're very legitimate questions. I've gone over them myself. Shouldn't be difficult to respond. So I've got 2 other things I want to mention. First of all, last Wednesday, the 1st of April, I went up to the state capitol, the state legislature, and testified before the investigations committee. They had a list of about 20 different witnesses that were going to speak about land transfer and throughout the state. And so my purpose in being there was the fact that 2 years ago, Senator Kissel assisted us in getting a 3-acre parcel from the state land at Osborne State Prison transferred to the town of Summers for purpose of building a radio tower, 2-way communication that we could use for emergency response and public safety. So we were able to get that through the legislature 2 years ago. But the problem is that there were also supposed to be deed restrictions that went along with it, because the issue was that we wanted it only for public safety purposes, and that should it not be used for that, and if sometime in the future it would revert back to the prison. And they could also use the land themselves for storage if they needed to in the meantime. None of this was included in the language on the bill. The bill merely just said transfer the land from the state to the town of Summers with no restrictions whatsoever, and we want fair market value for the land. So we went through this whole process. Todd Rowland worked with the Department of Administrative Services, and they finally, after over a year, it took them to come back with a couple of appraisals. They said it's going to cost the town $126,500 to buy those 3 acres. So we said, hey, we can't afford that. That wasn't part of our plan. We're going to build the radio tower. We don't have extra money to buy the land. I mean, that doesn't make sense. So I went back and testified. Luckily, Representative Vail is on the panel, which is helpful. He also told me that he's the lead person for land transfer on the panel. And then Senator Kissel testified with me in support of what it was we were trying to do and why we wanted to do it. Plus the fact that this radio tower would also assist other adjacent towns besides Summers. And it would also enhance the ability to communicate within Summers as well. So I think, there were a couple of questions by members, and I think they answered them, and I think things look good, I think. But you never know what's going to happen there. You never know. So we were surprised 2 years ago when we saw the language and it said nothing about deed restrictions, and just didn't make sense. So that was last Wednesday. Also, I just wanted to clarify, when I was here for your last meeting, I mentioned that the wind project was no longer a possibility at the old Somersville Mill site. And I also mentioned that we put together a group of people within Town Hall and sort of an in-house committee, and we decided that possibly Woodcrest 3 would be a good way to move for the future. But unfortunately, some individual wrote up a report after that meeting thinking that we were talking about Woodcrest 3 being on the mill site, put the word out to the whole town through the Summers Forum. That's not the case, of course. So I just clarified that at the Board of Selectmen meeting last Thursday night, and I want to clarify it right now that we're talking about Woodcrest 3 being constructed on town-owned property that's adjacent to Woodcrest 1 and 2. And we're thinking it's somewhere in the range of 60 to 70 units, maybe 2 stories, and this is just what we're initial conception. So that's end of my report. Any questions?
Any questions for the first selectman?
No.
Do you have anything for us, Joe?
No, CIP,
Well, one thing I would like to say is I've been working with Brian, and I think Joe's been working on this too. The statement that the Board of Finance is drafting, I think really needs to clarify why it is that we need the 2 mil increase. And by that, I mean we need to be very specific about the funding that we're not getting this year that we did get last year or we're thinking about getting this year, particularly state grant money and the tax exemption that the legislature passed last year, which they provided no funds for, but it cost the town, this is for 100% disabled veterans, a house tax exemption. It cost the town $250,000. And that was just a gift from the state. So I think that needs to be, make sure that that's included in the language. I talked to Brian about it, and I think he gave a copy to Joe.
Yeah, just for your information, it is in there.
Right. And I read it. I read it this morning. It looked good. I just want to make sure that we have a clear statement going to the residents that so they understand why it is we are where we are and why it is we're recommending what we are to keep current services, period.
My only comment to Brian about the text, just for the record so that everybody understands, is that in that set of bullet points where we're talking about the cuts that the state has imposed on us, one way or another, I would like to remove from those bullet points the 1.1 million one-time use of the balance of our reserves, because that's not a negative as far as I'm concerned. That was a positive step that we took last year to minimize the mill rate increase
But the point is, it's not available this year. We can't do it this
You
year.
can't spend the money
So we
twice.
don't have $1.1 million to draw from that fund. And that's the point he was trying to make.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, but I think the way it should be expressed is a little differently, in that we use that money that was in our excess reserves to minimize the increases last year.
But I think it's also important to make sure that people know that it's no longer available.
I agree.
Key word.
We no longer have available excess funds.
Awesome.
In our mandated.
You can stop there, full stop. All right, okay. Thank you very much.
There you go.
So with regards to CIP, maybe 26,000 we can return, which is our current balance, is that correct?
So with the current approved CIP budget that was approved, we would end fiscal 27 with about $26,290. So to make that to
Fiscal 27 or 26?
we would end fiscal 27. Fiscal 26, we would end with 59,000. However, we rolled a portion of that into. If we gave back that 60, we would need to increase the transfer from general fund to offset it. We do have lease liabilities of 190, right at 210,000. And then we have the second half of the library media center remodel for 111. So the leases in that project are pretty much the entire general fund transfer.
Yeah, we'll stick with the 26 numbers. So what is our last date where we got to finalize this? Because the state has to give us something.
Finalize what? Our budget?
Yeah.
The Board of Finance has to vote tonight, or else we have to push back all the public hearing and town meeting dates and so forth.
Well, for purposes of a vote tonight, in order to come up with a balanced budget, if we have 26,000 from capital from last year and 50,000 from the town, is that right?
That we will return at the end of the year? Yeah.
Okay, so that's 76,000. We need $91,000.
Roughly.
In either revenue or cutting expense.
Right. The way it sits right now, we need a total of 169,813. That's 0.13 mils.
What if we split the baby? I think if you take half of the 0.13, then it still psychologically sounds like it's 2. And then I think we bridge that gap without. My fear of taking 90 more out of CIP is we're kicking the can down the road and we're going to have to make up for it later.
Well, you can't take it because most of it's leased.
Well, that's just it. So
We do have some revenue floating around that's not in the revenue projection, right? We have the $300,000 that
Right, but
we're
that's
waiting.
never a revenue projection.
It's sitting in purgatory awaiting answers from the Board of Ed, right?
Right, but that's never in revenue projections.
It's not in the revenue.
Yeah,
You
it
have to
never-
pull it from reserves.
Yeah.
So it would go down, and then once you clear the books for 26, it would go back up. So you'd have to pull the remaining 141,000 from reserves,
91,000.
or whatever it is, 91,000.
Yeah.
And then when you clear the books in October from the Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen, that money would flow back into reserves. That's how you have to do it. So you'd have to pull below our threshold
I mean, we're already well below our threshold.
by 0.9.
Yeah, we need, that's where sheet go, sorry. We need 537,000 as we sit right now to get back to 15%.
Right. Did you have a comment, Sam?
Is it all right?
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
please help us.
Since the school was brought up about operations and
Responses to the questions have been sent in. But just for the Board of Finance's edification, I just want you to have this information specific to the high school. I think what it's telling is on page 3. And I just want to talk about the good work that our teachers and staff that the Board of Ed had been doing. So in 3 years, our high school has gone from number 63 to number 17. The responses that were sent in from the Selectman's office have been answered and sent. So since I'm here, you're here, I just wanted you to know that that had happened, and I also wanted you to know and understand the upward trajectory that the district is on.
That's great.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you. So, Mike, what do you think about splitting the baby? Just so we can bridge the
I
gap.
think we need to balance the budget with, 90,000 is not such a big number that we can't figure out a solution to it, okay? Well, we can find it in capital for the moment, and we'll deal with it later.
Because you're arguing for a mill rate higher than 2, is what you're saying.
I'm just saying, if we're 90 apart and it's about 170 is 2.13, if we just do 2.065, that's what I was thinking. Maybe we don't have to. I'm just worried about clobbering CIP. If we can find it from sources that are neutral, I'm fine.
I mean, I'd like to get the 2 if we can.
I'm looking for a paper solution to the problem that
I
we
got you.
fix later, right?
Yeah.
That's all.
So in order to do this shell game, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, it's really 141,000 you're pulling from reserves. Your anticipated 950 you're going to put back, and go ahead.
So, depending on how the special ed money goes, and provided we can get that, I mean, we feel comfortable saying that we could close that gap of 90,000 or so, but giving money back at the end of the year.
Right. So in order to do all that, because that money's not true revenue,
We're looking for a paper solution.
right?
And if Mike can find 91,000 in the moment, right now, right? And the town first selectman can be assured, or relatively, I know you're only one of 3, but if you can assure Mike that the 300,000 will be forthcoming, then it'll work out. He'll have, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So it's pretty much between you two, and if you two can agree, then we will tonight knock down the Board of Ed budget by 91,000, and we're done. We'll have, and then you'll get the 300,000 when I guess now. Right?
I'm
You've answered the question.
I'm missing something.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, okay. If you've answered the
I'm
question.
not sure how this works.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of confused on this one.
I'm
talking
too.
2 different years here. So basically what you're talking,
Right.
so you're talking about either reducing a future budget further or using fund balance of projected returns. So if we use fund balance of projected returns, we're still at a low percentage. My fear there is that this time next year, we're going to be going for a ratings call. So when we go,
This means that
they don't care about what you're doing in October. They care about what you're doing June 30th.
Right. But this would mean that now, in this 2026 budget, the school board would be putting back $91,000.
But your statement for ratings call is July
Right. So
1st.
then this time next year, when I go for a ratings call, we have a fund balance policy of 15%, and the ratings agencies are going to look at this, and they're going to see that our books are at 13.5% to 14%. We're going to get knocked for that. And when you pay $20,000 more a year in interest for 20 years because of that knock, it's easier to tax today than pay $400,000 for your penalty.
So the answer would be
Because these people are all going to pay for it in the long run versus paying a 0.1% more in a mill rate today.
So if we don't do that, if we don't accept Mike's suggestion and we raise the mill rate further to collect the 90,000, what does that do for the mill rate?
Right now, we would need 2.13 after the Board of Ed's $305,000 reduction. We sit at 2.13 right now, down from 2.36. So I commend the Board of Ed. You almost cut $250,000 out of it. That's That's a big number, especially when you're sitting at 1.3 million for a mill. Another 0.13 is
So what is
100.
that .13 getting us? Is that the 91,000 that we need?
The 0.13 would get you the whole 169 right
So,
now.
Yeah. Let's, I'd rather.
So if you
do
cut
what Bruce said, cut the baby in half and split it.
Right, so, but the 50 that you were talking about also is the same. It would be a use of fund balance, because that would be use of returns from the current year in a future year budget. So you're appropriating fund balance, which is going to further reduce the number that it.
That's right. So it looks like a 2.13.
Yeah.
2.13 would balance the budget as it sits right now.
Maybe we just do it. I don't know. I don't want to see us have to deal with this later.
We've got another
I have
suggestion.
another suggestion.
What if, because we'd be able to return money, we paid for the rest of the library project, and that money can go back into the CIP?
That'll work. If you
As
do
long as
that
we-
this
as-
fiscal year,
As long as the excess cost, then
that'll work. So your return would be reduced by that amount. There still might be some crumbs left, but
we always do our best, Joe.
that'll solve it. And that'll give you a rating balance, hopefully. And if the state could just squeeze Governor Lamont a little bit, we'd be in.
I missed this.
So he'll pay for next year's
Yeah.
Library rendition. and
Okay.
There's still money in
The
the
curtain-
CIP.
curtain in the library would come out of this year.
We could do that.
And then that's 141,000, which is what we need.
138.
138?
How does it affect the fund balance?
It doesn't.
It doesn't, but it takes the responsibility out of CIP. So it reduces
So you would-
CIP's responsibility.
Brian's point is a good one.
All right, so
Yeah,
you
we're
would,
not touching the fund balance.
Well, Brian's concern is the fund balance.
so where would you draw the 138 from?
Current.
Our current funds,
Correct.
remaining
This
out
fiscal
of this year, if we
Fiscal
get the
26
excess
budget?
cost.
So when the 300,000 moves over,
And then we're
That'll
not
work.
needing that money allocated from CIP.
And so then what would be your estimated return for fiscal 26?
I would have to go back and figure the rest of that out for you.
Not a lot.
No,
I'd say.
No, not a lot. You're right.
It'd be between 50 and 100,000. Wild guess.
keeping an eye on these oil tanks, Joe. Getting,
Well, oil, Jesus.
trying to get us to July 1.
Under 100 now.
Hence the 50 to 100.
So in this shell game, we're just trying not to pull from reserves.
You can't, because his
Yeah,
ratings
right.
call is coming up and that'll.
But-
Right, but by also doing the shell game, we're also not returning anything. So you're just
Right.
staying at where you're at, basically, because they're just going to use what they were going to return to the general fund. They're just going to use it to pay for the media center and the curtain, and that's all well and good. But again, it doesn't get us anywhere closer to that 15% number to solve the fund balance
So if we did
issue.
the 2.13, how close do we get? We're still.
If we do the 2.13, we balance the budget, and then we take whatever we get for return. So if they're gonna return 138 and the town's gonna return 50,
You're
let's
halfway
say we're at 200,000 between the two of us.
If the state
We're halfway there. We're at 14.6,
And if the state gave us anything that they owe us,
which I'm not going to hold my breath on, but we'll be a hell of a lot closer than we are today. But by not returning anything, then we're still just going to be sitting at, 13.5 to 14%.
I think you just do the 2.13.
Me too.
If we
It sucks,
have
but
to
it
go
is what
back
it
and
is.
cut it because he fails, then we'll go to 2.0.
I agree. I think it's
I have
just
a motion to
So moved.
set the mill rate.
second.
Any further discussion?
Thank
All
you.
in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. It's 2.13. So thank you very much for your efforts in
Yes.
trying to.
Yeah, outside the box thinking.
I think we have our work cut out for us to
Yeah.
make sure that this mill rate gets accepted by the citizens in summer. That there isn't misinformation floating around. that they know how much the school board has moved to, tighten the budget to help make it all work.
We do appreciate that
It was
immensely.
huge.
What do we know about the surrounding towns?
Any clue what the,
Surrounding towns?
Probably way higher.
Stafford has nobody, so I have nobody to contact there. Their person resigned and they haven't replaced them. The last time that I talked to Ellington, they were just selling their budget as a net reduction because they're in reval the same time as us. So rather than showing the adjustment and then any increases, they're just saying we're a net 8 reduction. So it's kind of pulling the wool over people's eyes.
Yeah.
Other than that, I haven't seen anything else from anybody else. I think Tolland was at like 1 1/4, but they also went up like 2.5 last year where we didn't. So we're in like opposite years.
I'm going to consider the approval of the budget flyer, and I think we talked about that already.
Yes.
Yeah, so do you want to send, actually, I'll just take your paper so that I have the sentence.
Yeah.
I can change the bullet point to the sentence.
Yep.
Changed.
It's on the back of this page.
Okay.
I'll give it to you.
I saw you had a couple of other things redlined in there.
Well, there were the other things that are redlined are the numbers, but the numbers have pretty much stayed the same.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Can I just suggest, as you mentioned, fiscal year 25, 26, rather than 26, because you mentioned 26, people are going to think immediately you're talking about this year. You're really talking about next year. So next year, 26, 27, the current year is 25, 26. I just think that's an important distinction that will less confuse the voter.
Okay.
yeah, so some of these numbers, Brian, just need to be adjusted based on what we decided tonight.
I already adjusted them from early. Yeah, the 2.0 will become 2.13. All the other numbers are the same.
Just like Kenny's suggestion of fiscal year.
Yeah, I can throw 26 in front. That's not a
I
problem.
put Mr. Kenny's suggestion inserted in the sentence.
All right. And this will be, this will just be one page of it. Going to do it similar to last year where it's folded in half. They'll have a cover. This will be on the inside along with the data table that shows the actual budget and the pluses and minuses in each grouping. And then the back will have the upcoming dates, public hearing, town meeting, and referendum dates on it.
Okay. We have a vote to approve the minutes of the regular meeting.
So moved.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
Joseph?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.